Well, if you've already heard part one of my conversation with Frank Santopadre, you probably knew there was more fun for all ages in store. Part two is coming at you now on Brio TV, the podcast. Hi, everybody. Bill Brio here, and thanks for joining me for part two of my conversation with Frank Santopadre. Really enjoyed speaking with Frank. He is, of course, the co-host of Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast, one of my favorites for years. And now he's out on his own with Fun for All Ages. I think Frank has really hit upon a new way to keep listeners keen, but let's let him explain how it all came about and how a band member from Metallica and an Irish talk show host were responsible for some of the inspiration. First, here's Frank paying tribute to Gilbert for over 8 years of fun on their Colossal podcast.
The show, I guess it sounds corny when I say this in some ways, but the show, looking back on it, and I had a lot of perspective after it ended. Yeah. And I had 3 years of not doing a podcast to reflect on it. It was a gift. It was a gift to me, certainly, to be there with my comedy hero, and it was a gift to, I think, to the guests. I certainly tried to make it a gift to the guests. I felt like this is a Valentine to you, sir or ma'am, and your career, and that's why we're here, is to pay tribute to everything, and thank you for everything you've given us. It was certainly a gift to the fans.
It was, and it's like, when you go and look for the pioneers of television, that they at YouTube, they have all of the access to these great titans of television and their stories, Carl Reiner, whoever. This is what you created, this vault of knowledge, of institutional knowledge about this in an era when we don't have that, but there it is, and we can all access it. So thank you.
I'm very proud of it, and again, all of and some of the best things in life are accidents. I guess. And this one was just a beautiful, happy accident. I ran with it when I realized what it was. When I realized 10 or 20 or 30 shows in, what an opportunity it was.
Yeah, no,
Frank, and especially for a guy who struggled as long as I did. I tried desperately to get on a late night show. Once I identified comedy as my goal, my kind of comedy was what Letterman was doing.
Right.
Was what SNL was doing, was what Conan, or the early Conan show, the first Conan show, late night.
So did you have ambitions to host the show?
No. I was just trying to get in a writer's room.
On the right. Okay. Wow.
I mean, that it was my sensibility. I was a satire. I was a lover of satire. I grew up on that stuff. I was writing for Mad. I'd written a little bit for National Lampoon. And I thought this was my sensibility. And for whatever reason, the things didn't fall that way. I wound up in daytime. I've had a long run on a network show. I'm very, very grateful. And I've met everybody there.
Yeah.
But I realized one day, well, you wanted to get on a late night show. You wanted that experience. You wanted to meet those people. But in the writer's room on a show like that, you don't really interact with the talent.
Right.
You don't. They don't bring the writers out of the writers' room on Letterman to sit down with Marty Short. But then I realized, because of Gilbert, because of my relationship to Gilbert and Dara, and because that now I have access, and I'm on a talk show.
Right. Yeah.
I'm in a better position, even though it wasn't my show. It didn't bear my name. But Frank, you get to leave the house on a Tuesday morning and go across town and sit and have an audience with Paul Williams and Carl Reiner and George Takei and all of these Robert Wagner and Alan Arkin and Alan Alda, and the list goes on.
Wow.
I took it very seriously. I realized I was in a unique position, and that's also why I did the work. I thought the harder I work, the more I know about these people, the more affection and admiration I can express to them in the course of the show, the better. And I also, from a psychological standpoint, Bill, I pinpointed that through my work with my therapist, I realized that's why I wanted to do this damn thing in the first place. That's why I suffered for so long. That's why I wanted for so long, and why I pursued this for so long was to make human connections with these people that I admired.
So what a wonderful surprise, Frank, to arrive at what is the Tonight Show. Like these podcasts. We're in an era when they're shutting down the late night talk shows.
Yeah, it's changed. It's changing.
Right.
The model is changing.
It is. Yeah. And it's because they're actually now on podcasts. Conan O'Brien is the great example.
Absolutely. Craig Ferguson has one.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And
soon
so
they all will.
Right.
Yeah.
and so you were just ahead of the curve, as it turned out.
We were lucky, and I was lucky because it was because of Gilbert's career and because of Gilbert's brand. It wasn't me they were really coming for. They were coming for him. When Carl Reiner, when you turn the mics on and Carl Reiner says, the first thing he says is, "I'm a big Gilbert Gottfried fan."
Yeah, wow.
And to watch him, I was starting to say that it was a gift to Gilbert at the end to continue the show. For Stacy Keach and Malcolm McDowell and all of these great actors that we were connecting with that would show up on the show and say, Norman Lear said, "I'm a big Gilbert fan. I love your work." He was so humble. He was so modest. He was so. I talked about this in the first episode of my news show. He never, in my opinion, came to grips with his impact.
This is Norman Lear.
No, Gilbert.
Oh, Gilbert. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Even all the Norman Lears and the Carl Reiners and the Dick Van Dykes and the Alan Arkins who came to the show to meet him and to interact with him because they liked him.
Yeah.
First of all, it came as a complete surprise to him. He was bowled over that they knew who he was, let alone that they were fans. And I think he never knew what his impact was, what he meant to comedy and comedians. He was too humble, and his roots were too humble. He came from a world that had nothing to do with this. They struggled with money as a kid. He grew up poor. I don't think it ever dawned on him, you are one of the. I would joke with him about it. Certainly, he made a joke once, and I said, "Did you do any homework?" And he said, "No, I'm a celebrity." But I don't think it occurred to him really, really deeply that he was a celebrity and that he was part of this club.
I think your show must have given him some insight into that because it just had to. You have to have 620 odd guests. You start to get that maybe you are part of this and an important part. So that's another.
Well, that was
gift
one of the most
show.
beautiful. Yeah, that was what. So I was starting to say the gift, sitting in the next chair and watching him light up like a kid.
Yeah.
When Carl Reiner, a god, a comedy god who should be on Mount Rushmore of comedy, is saying to Gilbert, "Hey Gilbert, I love that bit you do. What is it? What is that bit you do with Ben Gazzara?" They knew his bits. You could see him sitting 2 feet from me.
Yeah.
When we did the Dick Van Dyke episode, he was in Dick's house. We did that one over Zoom. It was over Zoom for me. I was in New York.
Wow.
I was in New York in the studio, but Gil and Dara were in L.A., and so they went to see Dick and Arlene, who they were very nice to welcome them into the house. Gilbert, I have never seen him to that point in time. I had never seen him starstruck.
Right.
He was. If you go back and you listen to that episode, you can hear the giddiness in his voice. You can hear, I cannot believe that I'm sitting here at Dick Van Dyke's kitchen table.
Yeah, I mean...
And so the show opened up those worlds to us, and I think, I can't speak for him, but I never got over it.
No, I mean, the Dick Van Dyke in particular, we're talking about somebody who's closing in on 100, and I met him a few times when I would attend the television TCA, the Television Critics Association press tours. And my God, I would be reduced to a 10-year-old each time. And just to be able to talk to him and find him so humble and just down to earth and incredibly simple. I remember asking him, we're just talking. I said, you did that movie, The Runner Stumbled. You played an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah, Stanley Kramer movie. I asked him about that too.
Yeah. I said, did that experience make you stop drinking? And he said, no, I drank more.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, he's not happy with his work in that movie.
No,
a lot of the critics were unkind. I actually like it. I think it was a big swing.
Yeah,
for him and Kramer.
But you're right with Carl Reiner, who I encountered a few times. It was always like going to Lourdes or something. Like there's
the expression "giants are walking among us."
Yeah,
but to be in the company, I met Dick in person when he was on the Behar show.
Yeah,
and
wow.
I said, I don't even do this, but I'm leaving my post and I am going to the green room. And
sure.
No one's going to stop me.
Right.
I'm going to go shake Dick Van Dyke's hand, and I did that a couple of times with certain guests. I made an effort to go to the green room and introduce myself, but. If you love this business, if you love comedy, if you love movies, if you love any of this stuff, when somebody like that is standing next to you, that's why I took it seriously. That's why I did the work. I thought this is a rare opportunity to have these people's attention, and it is intimidating. You're sitting there, and the person, especially if they're live.
Yeah,
you're sitting there at a butcher block table where we recorded in when we were at Earwolf, or just in a tiny little room where we recorded at Nutmeg, and that person is their eyes are glued upon you, and it's, well, what are you going to say next?
Yes.
What do you have to ask me that I've never been asked 10,000 times? Surprise me.
I know. I've been in that situation, and we had a TCA Awards. Norman Lear is there. I walk over to him and I say, "Sir, I grew up watching your shows," and he looked at me and he said, "So did I." There you go. That's all you need, right?
It's a great line.
Yeah,
they've got all the lines at the ready.
They do.
And they're also they've had a lot of experience with people walking up to them and being tongue tied and acting like a 9-year-old. And
usually, what happens is if you meet someone famous, you tell them a story, right? It's a weird thing.
I try not to be the jerky fan that you don't want to be doing the Chris Farley show.
No, exactly.
That was awesome.
Very funny.
I prided myself on, let's see, what can I ask Carl Reiner that he hasn't been asked 7,000 times? Mm-hmm. And the more you dig, by the way, the more you find little things on their careers that weren't successful. Like I decided to ask Carl about Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorites.
It's a funny film. It was on recently on TCM, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was so pleasantly surprised to be asked about it. And he said, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I don't, people are probably approaching him with these 10 questions. People probably approach Dick Van Dyke with these 10 questions.
Yes.
How do you do something different? How do you gain their trust early in an interview when you're 10 or 15 minutes in? And as I say, they know who Gilbert is, but they're looking at you with a little bit of skepticism. Who is this guy and why is he in the chair?
Back with more from Fun for All Ages podcast host Frank Santopadre after this short break. What's new on Super Channel? Well, for one thing, the all-Canadian streaming service has the award-winning new documentary Happy Clothes, a film about Patricia Field, designer to the stars. Her frocks have tarted up everything from Sex and the City to Emily in Paris. What else? Well, there's always plenty of choice on Super Channel, and don't just take my word for it. See and hear for yourself.
The one thing that you're going to have to remember is to protect your quarterback. Me.
What do you think about being a soldier and a father?
I hope that being good at the one makes me better at the other.
There's a strict hierarchy in ancient Egypt, and the pharaoh is at the top.
And therefore they have divine authority.
They were totalitarian.
Can I help you?
Word on the street is you need a sous chef.
No offense, you don't look like a sous chef.
And what does a sous chef look like?
Well, for starters, they never have a manicure.
I'm building something. the Lightwave Surf Company.
We'd be selling an idea of paradise.
Attention Marx Brothers fans, here's a dream come true, a chance to see A Night at the Opera on a big screen in a packed theater. It's coming up on Sunday, September 21st. It's going to be the Westdale Theater in Hamilton. They're celebrating their 90th anniversary, and they're going to go back to 1935 and show a film they actually showed there, A Night at the Opera. See it now in a fully restored print with some shorts, a newsreel, a couple of cartoons, a live-action short with Laurel and Hardy. I'll be there. I'll be providing the shorts in 16 millimeter. See the Marx Brothers Sunday, September 21st, 7 p.m. You don't even have to say the Sacred Void. For more information, go to thewestdale.ca. And we're back with my guest, Frank Santopadre. Frank, you've been very generous with your time. I want to just get into Fun for All Ages quickly because I really am enjoying the path you're on with this show. And you know, as you mentioned, you took 3 years before you jumped back into podcasting. During that time, were you thinking of a new concept? Did this concept where you're basically doing a survey of all the pop culture references, these touchstones, Serial, Mad Magazine, the SCTV, the Peanuts, the comic books.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We haven't done Peanuts yet, but I certainly would like to get to it.
You're talking to, one of your guests there from Triumph the Insult Dog there. I'm sorry.
Oh, Robert Smigel.
Robert Smigel. He talked about how influential.
Oh, you're right. No, I thought you meant a whole episode about it.
Well,
yes, you're right.
You know, like right. I still have 22 Fawcett Crest.
Oh, good. Bless your heart. I got them too.
And my son read them all, you know, like and I used to go, I remember as a kid, I could smell the green on the cover of those paperbacks.
That's really well put.
The memories of them are so strong. But
mine too. Early comedy influence, by the way.
Right. So you have Smigel, who people think of as this aggressive Triumph joke-telling comic. And it was a very introspective and sensitive episode, and he's talking about what he learned from Charles Schultz and how influential that is to all of these people. That's a great insight on Fun for All Ages, and looking forward to hearing more stories like that.
Thank you. Robert is actually a very sensitive guy who, like us, read those Peanuts books and took them to heart, and you know, the sweetness of those books, not just the funny, you know, that shaped us as people, that shaped our sensibilities. You know, he's one of us. Yes, there's an aggressive aspect to some of his comedy, but he's actually a very, very sweet, compassionate person. And I was thrilled to make that into a 2-part episode, and first of all, grateful to him that he gave us that kind of access into himself, but also that I was able to share it with people. My wife, who didn't listen to a lot of the old episodes because she's busy, she listened to the one with Robert, and she came into the room and she said, "He is a very sensitive, sweet, deep thinker." And I said, yes, he is. So I was so glad that came across to people. How did I come up with the premise, the format you asked? After Gilbert passed in 22, I was so burned out from 600 and something shows. I was so mentally tired. I was so physically tired. I did it in addition to having 2 jobs. I'd had my job at The View, and I had taken on, you know, because I was out of work so many years, Bill, that I was like a starving dog that you get, you know, that you suddenly put food in front of, and the dog eats everything and throws up. I couldn't say no to work. I couldn't turn work down. It was this kind of compulsive thing. So I took this job, in addition to The View, I took this job writing overnight comedy for 400 radio stations through a syndication service. So I was getting up early in the morning, working at The View, where we're live at 11. I was doing a full-time day at The View. I was coming home, working on the podcast where I could, eating dinner, and then I would sit down and write basically 8 to 10 pages of material that was sent to the syndication service that would farm it out to stations all over the country.
And Frank, you didn't just write them; you delivered the lines too, didn't you?
No. It was material farmed out to morning zoos and radio stations around the country that did not want to pay staff writers, so they subscribed to a comedy service.
Gotcha.
And so me and a guy named Evan Waite, who's now a writer on Family Guy, we two people had to do the job because it was too much work.
Right.
And we did this every night. So I was working in my 50s, I was working a 50-hour week and a 55-hour week. It became with the podcast. So a lot of those podcast episodes, I was exhausted by the time I got into the booth. And then, your work isn't even done because when you finish the show, then comes the post.
Right.
So I had to sit down on a Saturday or a Sunday and give up my weekend and edit the show and put the music in and put the clips in. And it was kind of 3 full-time jobs, even though they were part-time jobs. And I was so burned out. Of course, the radio job ended during the pandemic. But when the Gilbert podcast ended, I don't want to say I went into a depression, but I went into I went into this kind of I shut down.
Right.
I was so tired, and I was grieving. I was grieving the loss of Gil. I was grieving for the family and for all his friends, and it was also at a time when the world is shutting down too, Frank, right? 3 years right
ago.
After it. Yeah, 22. Mm-hmm. And I was grieving the loss of the community. I had put so much into the show and so much into the connections with the fans. I tried to answer every fan. When we sent out merch, I hand wrote a letter to each person. I had built this, without planning to. I had helped to build this wonderful community of people. People write me all over the world. They still do. I was mourning it all. I thought, well, now all of this comes to an end. And it came to an end rather abruptly. We did a last episode with Brenda Vaccaro. I walked him to his hotel room. He was having a procedure the next morning, and it didn't go well. And he was gone in 10 days.
Wow.
And though I knew he was declining, and I knew it was inevitable. It's not like the show had a wind down. You know what I mean? It's not like we had a victory tour or a so long or counting down episodes. It just ended.
Right.
And so I had a lot of apprehension about starting another one.
Hard act to follow. Yeah.
It's an impossible act to follow. I thought, well, I don't want to be. I don't want to be Archie Bunker's place,
After MASH
or After MASH. That's an even better one. Thank you. I was worried about that. I knew that he was irreplaceable. His energy, his mania, his brilliance, his impressions, his comedy. I mean, his subversiveness. I mean, the bomb throwing, the unpredictability. I thought that this is a person that cannot be replaced in any sense of the word. I cannot do another Gilbert and Frank show with a different version of him.
No.
So it took years to figure out what it could possibly be, and it took years to figure out whether or not I really had the mojo, the energy, and the guts to do it.
So how did you happen upon the themes for Fun for All Ages?
Well, going back and listening to the old show, we did an episode with a guy named Kirk Hammett, who's the lead guitarist in Metallica.
Okay.
And I remember when they contacted us and wanted to come on the show because they were fans. Kirk wanted to come on, and I said to his handler, I said, well, we don't know anything about Metallica. And I said, I can say I know nothing, and Gilbert knows less. So we cannot talk about heavy metal or Metallica. And he said, no. He's a monster kid. He has one of the world's biggest collections and most impressive and expensive collections of Universal horror memorabilia. He has Lugosi's outfit from what the hell was it? From Murders in the Rue Morgue or Black Friday or one of them.
Frank, he brought this collection to Toronto. It showed.
Oh, did you see it?
Yes, it was incredible.
It's eye-popping.
Yes.
So that I said, well, of course Kirk can come on the show. This is our sweet spot. We did an entire 90 minutes with Kirk Hammett, and I can tell you that Metallica was mentioned once. My sister-in-law's boyfriend is a Metallica fan, so I said, okay, you can ask one question.
That's
and
funny.
He gave me a question. His name is Brendan Brown. He has a popular band called Wheatus. And he said, I'm going to ask Kirk one question. I said, you get one Metallica question. We asked the Metallica question. We went right back to talking about Peter Lorre and
Awesome.
Glenn Strange and Dwight Fry. So I had that episode in the back of my mind, and I thought, could you do a show where you interview these people, not necessarily about their careers, which I had already done 400-something, 600 times with GGACP. Could I bring on interesting people and talk about the things they're obsessed about? That was phase one of the idea. Phase two is I discovered the Graham Norton show on Instagram. And have you
Pretty
seen
good
it?
show. Yeah, well, I watch it all the time. Yeah.
He is a master.
Yeah.
And not only is he a master, but it's a wonderful format to have three people on the couch. There's nothing like it.
But it also helps to get them liquored up.
He gets them liquored up, which I've not I've not ventured into that yet, but I may. But I'm watching these clips on Instagram, and it's three people. Like he's got De Niro sitting next to Elton John.
Yes.
Sitting next to Tom Hiddleston, the actor who played Loki,
right.
or he's mixing, and Meryl Streep is sitting there next to I don't know, Jonah Hill. And they're people who, or Judi Dench. They're people who don't necessarily go together.
No.
And he's a master so I was watching this, and I said to Genevieve, I said, this is what I want the show to be. I want the show to be a cocktail party.
Wow.
How many guests can I get into a show? Of course, that's a scheduling nightmare, as I've soon found in booking this new show.
Right.
Because I'm aiming for 3 or 4 guests a show. The other reason behind it, there is a method to my madness. I was very worried about people tuning into me and missing Gilbert immediately, saying, "Yeah, sure, we like Frank," but now it's the Bud Abbott show. I don't know how much we feel. I don't know how much we feel about how much we like the Bud Abbott show.
It's a great example, though, in a way. I mean, if it wasn't for Bud Abbott, there'd be no Lou Costello. He drove the act.
We know that, and all props and all praise to Bud Abbott.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Bill, I got into the studio. to do the first show. The first show you heard was not the first show I recorded.
Right.
That was the show where I came to my senses, and Andrew said, "No. Let's lead off with the passing of the torch transition episode that very smoothly moves people from the old show to the new show."
Smartly done.
Yeah, it's a stroke of brilliance on his part. But before that, it's because you know how it is. You record shows when people become available.
Yeah.
So before that, I did 2 other guests, and they were both on Zoom in L.A., and I was alone in the booth. And I went into this lonely booth without Gilbert, my first time on a mic without him. And this is another analogy. I really felt like Dickie Smothers doing a single.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, ladies and gentlemen, the Smothers brother.
Mom always liked me. That's the
Mom is always. So I then realized quickly, I realized abruptly, and it was a wake-up call, that a lot of my on-mic persona was, yes, being the straight man and playing off of him, scolding him because he was Peck's bad boy.
Right.
Gilbert, don't say that. Gilbert, you don't mean that. Or setting up the jokes. He's not there, and the vacuum, the emptiness was so palpable.
Wow.
That I barely got through that show because I stumbled through it basically on instinct and my cards.
Have those episodes been scheduled yet? Frank?
I have not put that one up yet.
Okay, all right, interesting.
There are audio challenges, and it may wind up going up as bonus material for our Patreon fans instead of as a main episode if I can fix the audio. But I came home, and Genevieve, my wife, said, "How was it?" And I said, "Something's wrong." I said, "Something's wrong. I sense his absence to a great degree, and so will the listeners." And so then I went back to the Graham Norton model, and I thought, if I have a lot of people, this is the thing. Are you a football fan?
Sure. Yeah.
When Aaron Donald retired from the Rams, and he was a force of nature, an all-world defensive tackle.
Right.
They said, "Well, we're going to need 5 players to replace him."
Right.
Not one. And that's how I feel about Gil. You can't substitute anybody in. So I thought, what if there's a bunch of funny people all laughing and all talking and covering a topic? Will his absence be felt less? So yeah, there's a bit of a strategy to this. Yes, also it's the show I want to do, but I feel like if it's a party, if I get lucky, and I'll give you an example. We did an episode that hasn't aired yet about William Castle movies.
Oh, great!
So I called Jeffrey Schwartz, who made a great documentary about William Castle, but I didn't want to do a one-on-one interview because it also becomes, not only does it become a little bit academic. You know, Cav had always advised me, get away from the Q&A. Make it a conversation.
Yes.
Don't make it an interview.
Right.
But hard to do when it's just you asking another person questions.
Yes. You have to be prepared with the questions, sure.
Right. But how much, and you and I have done our best today to make this a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's instantly a conversation when you add a third person.
It is
by definition. I suppose two people could have a conversation, but you're the host and I'm the guest, so it's a natural Q&A format.
Please don't go away. Frank will be right back. Well, time once again to check in on Hollywood Suite with our pal, Emily Gagne. Emily, what's new?
Well, Bill, are you ready to face the music?
Yes, I am, Emily. What do you got?
Well, we've got September soundtracks, so iconic films with great soundtracks from throughout film history. You know, stuff like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, The Judy Garland A Star Is Born, or if you're into more modern stuff, Sign of the Times from Prince. We even have Notorious, the film about the Notorious B.I.G.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What else you got?
We also have, and I'm very excited to share this, an Oasis documentary from 2005. If you have been following the Oasis news cycle, they're touring again. It's really hard to get tickets, so why not just watch their show from the comfort of your own couch?
Well, there you have it. Consider Hollywood Suite an oasis of great music. All this month, right, Emily?
Right, Bill.
Here on the Mountain of Entertainment, we take crime off the streets and bring it right into your living room. We're throwing the book at boredom with every episode of Matlock, Watson, Elsbeth, and the biggest crime lineup you've ever seen. You have the right to remain entertained.
Stream Paramount Plus from $6.99 a month.
You're gonna need backup here.
Paramount Plus.
And we are back. I've always done the podcast just one-on-one, and there are many times I wish there had been somebody else.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I understand. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
After I had Jeffrey booked, I called my friend Frank Conniff from MST 3000, and I said, "You love these bad, the Tingler and these bad Castle movies. Come on!" And this guy, Jeffrey, will be the knowledge guy. He'll be the student of William Castle. You'll be my kind of co-host commentary. And then I called Sven Gulli. I called Rich Coase,
right,
who hosts the late night horror show on the weekends. And I said, Rich, you love William Castle. I'm in.
Perfect.
So now I got a panel, and I'm having a blast because now it's like four guys in a diner having the best conversation about William Castle.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
That's what I'm chasing, Bill. That's what I'm chasing.
Your Serial episode is a good example, I mean, I think we all love the breakfast cereals we grew up with, even though I can't eat any of them anymore because sugar will kill me. But,
me too, buddy. Me too.
But I still remember the honeycomb ad where Cactus Joe's get hombre away. Tastes good, delicious. That stuff never leaves your head, right?
Very good. Well, that was a universal topic that I think everybody. I never got, even with GGACP. I don't think we've ever gotten as big and as. I don't think we've ever gotten a social media response quite like we've gotten to this episode.
It's a bullseye.
Everybody connects to Serial.
Frank, I would sit there and look at the box And, I would cut out the Huckleberry Hound mask that was there and put the thread and put it on. Or they had caricatures of Rod Gilbert and Bobby Hull NHL ones that I would cut out and kept forever in scrapbooks. It was just a magic trip to Disneyland to have that box of cereal in front of you.
It's a part of childhood. What I said to my wife and to Andrew when we were sitting down and mapping the show out, I said, let's make it a cocktail party. Let me try to become Graham Norton. I'm never going to be Graham Norton. He's a master, and he's got so much going on. But let me do my version of Graham Norton.
Yeah, and it's working.
And thank you very much.
Were you able to sit down and write 20 topics right away?
Genevieve gave me a legal pad, and she said, start by writing 50 topics.
Good for her.
Just do what we call a brain dump.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, William Castle, breakfast cereals, drive-in movie theaters, Irwin Allen disaster movies, game shows of the 60s and 70s. I have a bubblegum pop obsession, the Archies and the Cowsills and all. Yep. I wrote that down. I love Twin Peaks. I love Quinn Martin shows from the 1970s. I said, some of them are a little too niche.
No, they're not.
She said, don't editorialize, just brainstorm.
Yeah.
And I just kept writing. I want to do haunted house movies. I want to do a Jack Kirby episode. I want to do atomic age cinema, movies like Them and Incredible Shrinking Man and stuff like that. So I didn't think about guests. I didn't think about mixing and matching because eventually you have to match guests to those ideas.
Right.
Who wants to come talk about Irwin Allen? Who wants to come talk about drive-in movies? That's where the show gets challenging.
But it also is where it gets fun. Like who knew
Venn diagrams?
Who knew Vincent Price was a big art expert or had a collection?
Sure.
Not everybody, a lot of people, but everybody has a hobby or collects. And I grew up in a neighborhood where they had a great hobby shop. Rigby's in Etobicoke.
That's great.
And they had, movies of Monsterland and all the
famous
monsters of Movieland. They had slot racers down in the basement. You could get every plane.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah, and model plane building. The cement from doing that is still messed me up.
Oh, you're still high on the rubber cement.
I am still high on the rubber cement. Bubblegum cards, Batman cards, all that stuff.
That store gone? It sounds like paradise.
It's long gone, but I didn't realize how lucky I was that I could walk to this place. I thought they were in every neighborhood, right, Frank? Was there a place like that near you when you grew up?
There were two. There was this place in the city when my dad would take me into the city. There was a place called Polk's. People could look this up. Polks. Right. I believe that when Robert Duvall is briefly kidnapped by Sollozzo, he comes out. He's Christmas shopping. And he has this. I think he has a sled and a bag or something.
Wow.
And get in the car, consigliere.
Yeah.
I think he's coming out of Polk's.
That's hilarious.
Which was a hobby shop.
Wow.
That had everything that you're talking about. And there was a store where I grew up in Queens. There was a store in Jamaica Avenue. Anybody that's from Queens that happens to be listening to this will know, or you could go on a Facebook fan page called Memories of Woodhaven, which was the neighboring town where I grew up. It was called Lewis of Woodhaven. Lewis.
Okay.
And there was the kind of general store that maybe still exists in small town America, Bill, but it certainly doesn't exist here anymore, where you could buy anything.
Yeah.
You could buy a fan. You could buy a wiffle ball bat. You could buy, you could get a Slurpee.
Right.
You could buy a television. Snowshoes. It was a model train set,
right?
Like you said, Christmas decorations, off season.
Right.
It was the weirdest kind of schizophrenic, all-purpose, I guess, general store.
Yeah.
And I still remember the smell of the Slurpee machine.
Right.
So you could get trading cards, and you could get Mr. Potato Head or
wax lips,
Popeye
cigarettes.
You could get candy cigarettes. You could get you could
Lolas.
Get a Slinky, a propeller beanie.
Right,
they had everything in the world in this store.
Right.
And so the dream is that the podcast somehow becomes an audio version of, if not that store, that experience. I'm chasing celebrities now, trying to figure out, Seinfeld, who's an impossible booking, would have been great for the serial episode.
Oh, that's the first thing I thought of. So did you try?
No, because I didn't have the time to.
Right.
He's touring, and I didn't have. And I know people who know him, but it felt long. It felt like a long shot, and maybe I should have sent a flare up. But
Part
you know
two.
what? I'll do a Superman episode.
Yes,
down the line. And
absolutely.
I'll call somebody and I'll say, could you ask Jerry about this, or at least email it to him? But that's the idea. Would Tom Hanks come on and talk about his love of the space race
and typewriters
or typewriters?
Yeah.
Could I actually? Could I actually get these people? It's also a way to bring the old people back, the people from the original show.
Right.
I don't have to do another career-defining interview because I've already covered that.
Yeah.
But would Beverly D'Angelo come and talk about Hanna-Barbera, where she worked early in her career?
Wow. Yeah.
That's a different kind of show with
a great idea.
Gimmick.
That's a great idea.
That's what I'm after. And so now that I've got my 50 or 60 or 70 topics, now I'm trying to find a co-host and find two other people that can sit on the couch and be really funny. You can't see it, but I have a wall here that's covered in grease paint, grease board wallpaper.
Yeah.
And I have about 70 half-booked shows on the wall.
Good for you. That's fantastic.
Where it's good and it's bad, but it's kind of like, okay, I've got one guest. Okay, $6 Million Man. We're going to do a whole episode about the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, because this will be pure fun.
Yeah.
And I've got one guest.
Well,
so those are the challenges of booking something like this.
Frank, find out what Dick Smothers is into, and
there you go.
Just make that a one-on-one episode.
Good callback.
Yeah. There you go.
That's the show anyway, and I appreciate you mentioning it.
It's wonderful, fun for all ages. Look at the illustration of Frank with the 3D glasses on the logo,
illustrated by the great John Tessler. I want to shout him out.
Wow! No,
and let me shout out. Now that you said that, Bill, let me shout out my team, because it does take a village to make this show. My producer Andrew Capone, my post-production guy Bobby Hutch, and Josh Chambers, our social media director. It takes a lot of people to, and my wife Genevieve. It takes a lot of people to make the show. I cannot. And certainly for the last show, I hope I gave all the people that made the last show possible their due. It does take a village. It is a lot of work for me, but it is not a one-person operation.
No, kudos to your entire team. But Frank, what I've discovered, and I've written for 40 years about television from Canada, and I enjoy.
And congrats on your show, by the way, because it's excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, you were kind enough to send me that note earlier, and I was really blown away.
I really enjoy it.
Very glad we connected. So I appreciate.
You're a knowledgeable host. You're a good host, and you ask the right questions, but you also know your onions, as they say.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's high praise coming from you, and I'm going to look forward to more of your Fun for All Ages.
So am I, Bill.
And folks, if you're listening too, you can absolutely. There's a Patreon opportunity there. You'll get bonus material. You get your name. Frank will mention your name during a commercial break. I will
shout out your name on the show. You will also get a sticker.
Yeah.
With the logo. You will also get a handwritten letter from me, or a signed note.
Yeah. Wow. Really?
From me, and you get other things. You get to compete in little contests that we have for prize giveaways, and we do a thing on the show called the $5 question. Not to be confused with the $64 question,
right?
Which is for your $5 a month donation to the show. You get to ask the guests a question. So there's a lot of fun going on, and you get videos, behind the scenes videos, and pictures, and anything else that I can cook up that we'll put on Patreon.
If you send $5 Canadian, can we ask you a Canadian question?
Absolutely.
All right, that's a deal. That's a deal.
You can ask a question about the Royal Mounted Police, or about Guy Lafleur.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, or SCTV. There we go. We'll broaden it to that. That was a good show you've done already. Yeah, Joe Flaherty episode was a lot of fun.
That was a show that was supposed to be on the old show with Joe and Gilbert.
Oh, my God, eh? Wow.
And when, in fact, Joe and Paul, his brother, were lined up, and when Gilbert took a turn for the worse, that was one of the shows that fell by the wayside. In that case, I really wanted to meet Joe Flaherty. When I started Fun for All Ages, 3 years had gone by. and I picked up the phone and called Paul, a wonderful comedian and content creator in his own right. Directed Clifford and Who's Harry Crumb and wrote for SCTV and Muppets Tonight and many, many other things. And I called Paul and I said, do you still want to do this? What if we just remember Joe? And he pulled in his old writing partner, Dick Blasucci, another legend. And we put that one together, and I was pretty proud of the way it came out.
It actually made it more fun because you don't hear from those guys, and it's like talking to Bill Persky. You just this guy has more stories than anybody, and he's a wonderful interview as a writer. Yeah. So try and get in touch with Martin Short's brother, or
I could get Marty and Michael Short.
Michael Short, because they get another perspective on it all.
The show is it's a time capsule, but it's a tribute. I will still bring on, if I do book a major celebrity of some kind, someone who's an important figure, and I didn't have them on the last show, I reserve the right to pull in the old format and do an interview. A career defining interview, because I don't want to throw that away either. I don't want to just be so slavish to the new format. If a Richard Dreyfuss or an Alice Cooper or somebody like that falls into my lap, they merit a full the full treatment, the full 90-minute career retrospective. So the new format is malleable.
I love doing the podcast because as a writer, I don't have to spell or check my grammar.
Isn't that fun?
Oh my God, it's so liberating. And it's just the best part of being a writer is having the conversation. And that's what podcasting is. So,
well, you're obviously as I say, you're natural at it. You obviously care about people. You're obviously a curious person. That always helps.
Well,
and we get to meet our heroes, and like I heard your show with Dave Thomas, and it was really beautifully done. I couldn't have done a better one myself.
Well, thank you.
And he obviously trusted you and opened up to you, and
he's a beautiful guy. He's doing his best for Ukraine right now, and quite a heroic thing he did.
I saw that. I saw that. I actually have to get him a note. And I don't know if he heard the Joe episode, so I have to get him a note.
There's some talk, I think, of maybe some Bob and Doug thing happening again. So I'm not sure if we get Rick Moranis back in the loop, but when it happens, I'll be listening for your take on it. Frank, you're very, very generous with your time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Oh, you're generous to ask me, Bill. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and best of luck for fun for all ages. It's a wonderful new spin that you've come up with. It's just a next generation of podcast from one that I really cherished for all those years, driving up and back for the cottage. So looking forward to many.
I'm glad we could make a small contribution to your life and your commutes.
Yeah, it was brilliant. So thanks.
It was
again.
the best work I've ever done. Really, and I'm so grateful to Gilbert and Dara for giving me that opportunity. It was a great gift.
Well, my thanks once again to Frank Santopadre for being so generous with his time, considering he has a very busy podcast schedule himself. If you haven't already, give Fun for All Ages a listen. You'll find great guests and topics you too can relate to, be it serial or SCTV or Charlie Brown or horror films, so many other pop culture topics. They're all among my favorites. I want to thank my team here at Brio TV, the podcast, and that is Phil Hong. He is my ever-valuable one-man podcast machine. Speaking of cereal, kudos as always to the Crispy Critters, including BJ Del Conte, Paul Boudra, and piano man Stephen Dudley for the music heard on this podcast. Finally, thanks to you, listener. If you like what you heard, please spread the word. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.